Howdy, YouTubers. This is Steven, and I want to talk with you for a brief moment about Spanish of the United States, or United States Spanish. And do you think that the United States has a variety of Spanish all to itself? Like, how there's like Mexican Spanish, Puerto Rican Spanish, Colombian Spanish, etc. Do you think that the United States has a Spanish all to itself? Well, I was browsing around the internet and I ran across this article. And the title of the article is Dictionary of Spain's Spanish Language Academy adds Estadounidismo. So it adds the word Estadounidismo. And that word means more or less United States isms, like kind of like words, Spanish words, used within the United States, or particularly within the United States, and pretty much just about within the United States only. Yeah, I found this article on the North American Academy of the Spanish Language website. And what I'm going to do, the article is really short, so I'm just going to read the article and give my thoughts and opinions. So here we go. The Dictionary of the World Academy of the Spanish Language has accepted the term Estadounidismo, defined as a word or usage common in Spanish as spoken in the United States. And also, I want to clear any confusion. They're adding the word itself, Estadounidismo, not all Estadounidismos. They're just adding the word Estadounidismo itself to the dictionary. But yeah, they define it as a word or usage common in Spanish as spoken in the United States. So it's kind of like, the Academy, is acknowledging that there is, Spanish is spoken in the United States and it has its own particular variety. So it's sort of, in a way, it's kind of helping legitimize the Spanish of the United States. And I think that's really cool. And I think that is a great move on the part of, Spain's Spanish Academy, the Royal Academy of the Spanish Language. I think that's a good move for, them to help promote the usage of Spanish. Because the United States, like, that's a great place for a language to live, if you get what I'm saying. The United States has a lot of pull. All right. Next, the North American Academy of the Spanish Language proposed this term as a first step toward recognition of the use of Spanish by Hispanics in the United States, comparable to the modalities of use of the language by diverse nationalities. So basically, it's like, okay, the Academy, the North American Academy, they're glad because it's helping forward or helping them get to their goal of legitimizing Spanish within the United States. And again, that's a great thing. I think that's a great thing. And also, it gives, the United States its own variety, instead of like, oh, Spanish is spoken in the United States, but it's really just Mexican Spanish, or it's really just Cuban Spanish or Puerto Rican Spanish, All right, next, among the new terms that will appear in the next edition of the dictionary in 2014 is Spanglish, defined as a modality of speech among some Hispanics by which Spanish and English lexical and grammatical forms are mixed, thereby weakening both. Ouch. So they feel like, Spanglish ain't good, from the sound of it. But basically, they define Spanglish as, mixing, Spanish and English vocabulary and grammar forms together. It's like a mixture of Kind of like, for example, the word, let's say, look in English, the word look, to look at something. In Spanish, sometimes, in Spanglish, or at least, they Hispanicize the word. So it becomes lookear, like to look, lookear. As well, the word truco. Well, I wouldn't say truco. Scratch that one. How about the word lunchear, like to have lunch? And that's a Spanglish word, lunchear. And they kind of just took the word lunch from English and sort of Hispanified it to turn it into like a verb, lunchear. So yeah, those are some Spanglish examples. All right. The North American Academy of the Spanish Language is one of 22 academies of the Spanish language that jointly published a dictionary, a grammar book, and an orthographic book or orthography book, and other Spanish language normative and illustrative reference works. They are published in accordance with the new pan-Hispanic policy introduced in the last 2 decades, with the acceptance of the fact that more than 90% of the world's Spanish speakers reside in the Americas. The Royal Spanish Academy gathered terms contributed by all the academies for the dictionary. So basically, the Royal Spanish Academy in Spain, they realized that Spanish is spoken majority in the Americas, like North and South America. That's where it's mainly spoken. So therefore, they contacted the academies within those countries and pretty much just got some new words from them, So that's cool that, really that's definitely a good thing that the academy is acknowledging the Americas, because really if you don't, then you don't really have much of a Spanish speaking, well, you don't really have much of a Hispanosphere, because it'd just be Spain, pretty much. Once you take away the Americas, you just got Spain and Equatorial Guinea, and that's it. All right, next, the inclusion of Estadounidismos recognized the importance of Spanish in the United States. The 2010 census counted more than 50 million Hispanics. The number puts the United States in second place after Mexico among Spanish-speaking nations. Furthermore, because of immigrants from all Spanish-speaking lands, the United States is the test tube where many variants of the common tongue are created. So basically, the United States has a large Spanish-speaking population that cannot be ignored. Some people would like to ignore it, but it can't. But they can't. It's such a big population to the point where it's like, Spanish has no official status in the United States, but it's like has such a large population that it's like, okay, there should be some type of recognition for this, because there's just so many Spanish speakers in the United States that it's like, how could we ignore this? And also, there's so many Spanish speakers coming from different parts of the Hispanosphere that they can kind of come together and throw words here and throw words here and, put their own spin on things. And it kind of helps. It kind of creates a whole different variety of Spanish, because you have like people from Puerto Rico, people from Mexico, people from Cuba, the Dominican Republic, and as well as other places, and they're all coming together and speaking their own Spanish. And also people are able to sort of like learn from each other as far as the Spanish is being, the Spanish words and things like that, and different vocabulary here and there. As well, you have English too, which is a strong influence on Spanish. And I've heard, I know my Spanish linguistics teacher had said that, people are sort of predicting that, Spanglish will transform into a language of its own. It will evolve into a language of its own. And we have seen that happen. In history, that has happened. It's kind of strange to think of um, something happening like that, because usually when we think of things like that, it's way back in the past. But think about Latin, and think about Spanish, French, Italian, and Portuguese. Those were all considered sort of like um, you know languages that weren't seen as prestigious, seen as incorrect usage of the language Latin. But they ended up becoming a language. They ended up becoming languages. And those languages live on beyond Latin. They have carried on for Latin in its death. So, people do kind of scoff at, Spanglish. And, I do too sometimes, just because I want to learn things the right way first versus the wrong way first. Then once I learn the right way, then I'm like, okay, I'll see what you have to offer. But yeah, people do scoff at Spanglish. All right, next. All right. Gerardo Pena Rosales, president of the North American Academy of the Spanish Language, noted that the fact that for the first time Estadounidismo appears in the dictionary is due to the great measure to the commitment of the North American Academy. And he says, at this point, I think that one can speak of as Spanish of the United States. He says, this variant, let's see, parentheses, which has nothing to do with so-called Spanglish, is one more, neither better nor worse, although surely more complex than the Spanish spoken or than the Spanish speaking nations offer. Spanish spoken in other nations. All right, so here, basically, he's saying that the United States Spanish, not Spanglish, but the United States Spanish, the Spanish that is spoken in the United States, is neither better nor worse. It's just different and perhaps more complex than Spanish spoken in other nations. It's probably a bit more complex because, you have Spanish from other nations coming together into sort of like for lack of a better word, a melting pot. Then you also have the strong influence of English. So yeah, it becomes a bit more complicated. But it's not better or worse, it's just different. And sometimes I think people kind of forget that. But there is a difference between Estadounidismos and Spanglish. I'd say Estadounidismos would be something like using the word aplicar, the verb aplicar, in place of the verb solicitar. Sometimes they're like, aplica aquí, for like a job. But really, aplicar means like to apply, as in to put something on something, like to apply like that. The verb they should be using is solicitar. And unfortunately, I don't really see that verb used a lot in the United States for some reason. I don't know why. But really, they should be like solicita aquí. Another example would be orientar contra alquilar. So if you hear the verb rentar, you would think, okay, it means to rent. Assuming, like, coming from an English point of view in the United States, you're like, okay, rent. Because that's what I kind of thought at first. But then I looked up the word. And the word means to yield profit. It's a verb that means to yield profit. Or yield profits, And I'm like, okay, that's strange because I've seen this verb rentar on advertisements advertising apartments. So it's like se renta, like se renta means for rent. You know, they're using the word rentar instead of alquilar. It should be se alquila instead of se renta. So I think those are Estadounidismos right there. Spanglish would be something like I've mentioned before, look, the word lookear. I think that would be Spanglish. Or lonche or lonchear. I think that would be Spanglish as well. But I guess it's kind of, you see, we have to really define what is a United States ism and what is Spanglish. We really, I guess someone here has to play that out. All right, next, here's the next part. As expected, continued Pina Rosales, technology also plays a key role in the new additions to the dictionary, with such terms as blog, bloguero, chat, chatear, tableta electrónica, and others. We do not have to remind anyone that the majority of these terms come from English, a language which we Hispanic Americans coexist. So now he is acknowledging that technology plays a big role in these new words, and probably in the Estadounidismos as well, because a lot of times the United States is helping create new technology, and we have to have names for these, this new technology. And Spanish in the United States is probably going to piggyback off of the English within the United States when it comes to these names. And then some people may think, okay, is that Spanglish? I wouldn't, some people may think that's Spanglish because it's like Hispanifying English words. But is it Spanglish, or is it just an Estadounidismo? Good question. All right, next. Since 2001, when the latest edition, the 22nd edition of the Royal Academy of the Spanish Language Dictionary was published, some 2,000 new words have been accepted, modified, and removed. All of them, and still others, will be added to the 2014 edition. Dario Villanueva is the secretary for the Spanish Royal Academy, or Royal Academy of the Spanish Language, and the coordinator that writes the dictionary. And he states that the Academy, the Spanish Academy for the Spanish language, it does not promote words, but rather records or records what is imposed, what people use. And yet another ratification of the fact that people make language, and that the academies assure that the process of additions adapt to the nature, grammar, and syntax of the Spanish language. So basically he's saying here that the Academy does not promote word usage or words. So the Royal Academy of the Spanish Language does not promote words, but it records what is imposed. Like, it just records the words, the words that people use. What it does promote is, grammar and syntax, and, people just using the language correctly. But it does not promote words themselves. And that's the end of the article. So there you have it. There you have it. So do you think that the United States has a, legitimate form of the Spanish language? I'm going to say it does. I think it does. It has a form that is not Spanglish. You know, they are not words that have been, I will say, it's a fine line because you can say some of these words are Spanglish, but I'll say that it does has its own particular form of Spanish, but as well it does have Spanglish, and the lines do get a little blurry sometimes. But overall, yes, it does have its own particular variety of Spanish. And I think in time it will perhaps become legitimized. I don't know how, but I guess with more usage and more people of prominence using the Spanish language in the United States, perhaps. But that's all I have for the time being. Thanks a lot for watching. Feel free to comment. Feel free to subscribe. Feel free to give me a thumbs up. Your feedback and your support is extremely appreciated. Until the next video, adios and goodbye for now.